Hi, and welcome to Business Unusual. I'm Liz Whitehead, and I'm here as always with Heather Cox.
Hi, co-mastermind of Diversity Masterminds.
And we're here to talk about business unusual. What happens when business unusual becomes business as usual? And our guest today is our friend Charmain Lewis. Hi, Charmain.
Hi.
Awesome. And we're going to get into it, but before we do that, Charmain, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. Hi, I'm Charmain Lewis, as you've already mentioned. I have a company named Evolution Communications Group, which has kind of parlayed into several different areas. I do a lot of writing for, I write for a magazine, Diversity Professionals. I also do some PR work as well for some different organizations, but my main thing right now and lately has been my yoga. I know that sounds, it's interesting, right? Maybe not, but I've been practicing yoga for so many years, since about 2003. And I was doing it for fun, just because it made me feel better. I, at one point, had just had my second child and was working full time. Husband was traveling. It was a lot, and yoga was my outlet. So I just continued on with that practice and decided at one point that I wanted to get my teaching certification. And when I made the decision, I made the deposit for the certification class, I found out I was pregnant with my third child.
Yeah.
Right,
We've all been there. We've been there.
Yeah.
Pregnant again. I know, it happened.
Yeah. So that happened. And I would have gone on with it, but the instructor at the time did not recommend that I enter a teacher training class. And this was, back in 2010. Times have changed, but they did not recommend it because it was such an intense class, and they didn't, they wanted to avoid potential injury. So
Liability,
exactly. And I completely understood. So anyway, I put a pause on all of that, still kind of like playing in the space, just taking classes on occasion, but life was going on, which is when I formed my my business Evolution Communications Group, and just did some PR work, and still was doing some things in the education space. Fast forward to today. So as I mentioned, yoga has kind of turned into my main thing, because I did eventually get certified almost 4 years ago, and was teaching at a studio once a week, and would also do some events on occasion. But I don't know if it's going to be a question. It is a question, but it has now parlayed into my, like I said, main thing, because so many people were in need of something. They were seeking an outlet during the time of the pandemic, and my practice, which is a service, I turned into just a service for the masses, and it just snowballed from there. So
that's great, though. I do think
awesome.
I do think when people find that, whether it be yoga or bike cycling or whatever it is, it really does center you. It grounds you. Like, people sometimes ask me why I go to the gym, and there's like a million reasons, but one of them is so I don't punch random people in the face, because it's such a good outlet for tension and stress, right? And it's like, keeps me out of jail. That's what I tell people.
Right. Absolutely. It's absolutely an outlet. And it all depends. And it's so interesting. I find that it's almost like there are two types of people, but I think we both could use each.
Oh, for sure.
So the yoga that I'm practicing today is more of a gentle practice. I do love the intense classes, but it has been gentle just because I have found that I needed to be gentle with myself. Yeah. And so as I do share this with some people have told me, I like to run, I like to hardcore like that, just give it to me. And so yoga is a little too slow, or maybe it's too quiet, but for myself, I knew that I needed that. At the time that I started practicing, I was living in the DC area, and there was noise all around me all the time, whether it be at home, whether it be at work, on the highway. There was so much noise that the quiet, calm stillness I needed, and it grounded me. And so what I have found is that people didn't realize that they needed this. And so when I offered my yoga classes to individuals during the pandemic, It was obviously a virtual setting, and I had people just try out my class. I just wanted to see what it was all about. Either they had taken a class once before, didn't like it, or they were intimidated because they walked into a studio and felt like they didn't fit the mold of what these other women looked like or what they thought it was going to be. So they just didn't feel comfortable. And providing yoga for these individuals in the, in the privacy of their own homes worked because there was no judgment. There was nobody looking around, and really, it's really us looking outside of ourselves. And so there are so many lessons in all of this, but yes, I have found that that I turn to it for the calm, for the still, and it allows me to just center myself and ground myself so that I can take care of all of the big things that need to be handled in life. And I think that the people that have been coming to this class, and from those who do practice it on a regular, it's a similar sentiment. People think that yoga is about, or used to think yoga was about, the flexibility and having to look a certain way. And when you go through the process, you realize that there's an internal shift. And that internal shift is really a moment of recognizing what is within you and finding all the goodies that are inside of you. And it has nothing to do with anyone or anything else externally. So it's been great.
I love that you say that. We talk about that all the time with Diversity Mastermind, that, people, like, we're great for people that want to do it virtually and don't want to go to an event. Like, they go to an event and they're overwhelmed and they don't know who they're supposed to talk to. And it seems like everybody else knows something they don't. And so, we developed a lot for our clients for that exact reason. So that makes a lot of sense.
So I have a question for you. You mentioned how you kind of pivoted to this virtual space, right, which a lot of people did during the pandemic. So with yoga though, right? So there's no judgment when you're at your house. There's no, like, you can wear whatever you want. You don't have to feel like, oh, I'm not in the right sportswear, whatever it is. But how have you been able to do, like, I know sometimes with yoga, the positions are very important to the outcome of the practice, right? So how have you been able to learn the ability to teach people how to move their body, right, in the way that is going to best impact their practice? Because it's very hard. Like, you can tell someone move to the right. I know sometimes if I do bar and they're like, suck in this and move that and hold this, and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many instructions. What? Yeah. And then I just standing there like this because I'm not sure what to do. So how have you been able to teach yourself to communicate in the way that helps people move in the way they need to move?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. I will say this. Number one, I am doing the practice with individuals as we're going. So they have me as they can look at me and watch me. It's very verbal. So I'm talking the entire time. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, in a class setting, if you were in a room with me, I could come and I could make adjustments, or I could come whisper something to you. And I don't have that ability now because people do turn their cameras off, which is fine. Mm-hmm. And what I have found, and also what I share, and this is why I love and will continue this till I'm 110 years old, is I love that people have discovered that they don't have to be in the perfect position. What they do need to be safe. So we talk about, if you have prior injuries, let me know. But we talk about modifications. And we talk about, and you hear this in class too, if you're exhausted or tired, or if it's not working, take a child's pose or just lie down on your mat. It doesn't matter to me. It matters. What matters is what the outcome for you. So the main focus in my class is breath. We talk a lot about breath work and breathing. Without breath, there is no life, right? So what people have discovered is, honestly, they weren't breathing properly, and not just during my class, but day to day, just like maybe even sitting at your desk, just checking in with your breath. Are you taking some nice, comfortable, maybe deep breaths? It's not, I'm going to be honest, it's not organic to sit there and take deep breaths all day long, but it is very healthy to pause during your day and just breathe. And how many times have we had a moment of, gosh, I can think of so many moments where maybe we've been nervous, right? And you take a deep breath and just let it go. I think of my son who plays baseball, and every time he comes up to bat, I can see him standing with his bat. And before he swings that back. He takes a deep breath when he comes up to the base.
Right.
He calms you down. And that's what we talk about in my class is breathing. So as we're going through the different poses, I'm guiding the breath. I'm saying, okay, inhale as you lift your arms, exhale as we breathe down.
Right.
So what they noticed during the practice and afterwards is that they were able to move into certain positions that they didn't think they could move into because they use their breath as a guidance system. And that is something you can take off the mat. Use your breath as your guidance. You have a guidance system. It's all in here. So back to that going within. So that's how we move through those poses.
That's awesome. I see a lot of ways that this would resonate for business owners. Like, what would you recommend for business owners in terms of a yoga practice or even like a daily breathing practice?
It's funny, I have some really heavy hitters. I have some heavy hitters that come to my classes. When I say heavy hitters, they're, job requires a lot of them and they're pretty intense. On top of, they've got kids and they've got a lot of things going on, mostly women, right? And so this is almost serving as an outlet. We have class 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. So they're on first thing in the morning and it is a way for them to start their day. So that's just one thing I can just mention is just starting your day with a practice, right? Some form of, if it's not yoga, then maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's a meditation. Maybe it's just sipping your tea and just breathing. But also when you're, working throughout your day, just checking in with your body. So oftentimes we tend to lift our shoulders up, we work like this. And we don't even realize it until you drop them down. So at the beginning of every class, I always tell everyone, relax your stomach. Like you can do this at your desk. Just relax your belly because you were probably holding on, sucking in, and you didn't even know it. And let your shoulders just drop down. And right there, that 2 second, those 2 second steps allow you to relax. And and when you practice that, when you do that on a regular, it becomes a habit, which allows you to perform better, which allows you to feel better.
That's very counterintuitive to let your stomach out, because I've been sucking my stomach in for 35 years.
When I first started, when I was in yoga class, I remember my instructor told me to do that. I'm like, what? Why would I want to do that?
I'm gonna let it all hang out.
And so for a while, honestly, it didn't resonate. It didn't make sense. I understood that okay, that feels better. I don't want to walk around with my stomach hanging out, but it doesn't mean that you're not going. So everything that I'm teaching people, it doesn't mean that you're doing this 24/7
all day long, right?
Something's wrong with you if you're not. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's like taking a moment to recognize that you need to be pretty gentle with yourselves. We are, especially like I said, us women, we go hard. And so it's really important that we pause. And that's another thing we talk about. I share the pause in your day, the pause in your life. It could be taking a nap. It could be sipping your tea. It could be maybe you just got let go of a job, right? Or maybe you have an injury and you're not able to do what you were accustomed to doing. That's just a pause. And that pause is it's there for you so that you can hear what is happening inside. So you can hear that voice, so you can hear the messages. Things are being downloaded all the time, but until we pause, we don't really have an opportunity to hear it. So taking that pause and just recognizing, like listening, okay, what's the next step? Because we don't want to have knee-jerk reactions all the time. That's when we have accidents, and that's when we go in a direction that we didn't intend to go. So taking a pause is really important.
Yeah. Is there anything during COVID, because it sounds like this went really well for you, that there was like, not only I made it work, but there were actually benefits to being virtual. Is there anything that you wouldn't continue that you're glad to see go, or that you're like, oh, I wouldn't do that again?
Yes, I'm actually very pleased to hear of, so I see myself being flexible for the rest of my work. The flexibility is just key. I am hopeful that, employers recognize and individuals recognize the importance of having the flexibility. You're going to get more productivity out of yourself and out of others when you're flexible, when you take into account people's situations. Maybe this person does not like being in front of people all of the time, but they work really well at home on their laptops doing the research or whatever it is they're doing. I personally know that I'm a little bit of both. I like to get out there and mix and mingle with people. That's really important. And I don't mind speaking publicly. I'm okay with that. But I also know that I need to retreat. I don't want to be on, constantly. I need a moment to pause and to retreat and to catch up. So I don't ever want to go back to the times where we have to be out somewhere all of the time to be an effective somebody or an effective worker or whatever it is. So I'm loving this flexibility, and I think you're just going to get a much better person, when we encourage people to work. And honestly, if you think about schools and the school systems, the school systems encourage differential learning, or differentiated learning, meaning know the learner. You need to know the learner if you're going to get the best work out of the student. Well, it's the same for your employees and people that work with you. You need to know how they operate best.
Yeah, that's so true. So where do you see, like, in 5 years from now, where do you see Charmain Lewis? Where is your yoga practice going to be? Where is your business going to be 5 years from now?
Yeah, do you want to open a studio, or you want to continue to just instruct? How do you feel about it?
So that's a great question. I would like to open I don't know if it's called a studio, a center, maybe a space. I want to have a space that does provide some yoga instruction, but it also provides, it's a healing space. That's what I see. Sacred healing space for people to come and just to be. So there's multiple entities. Sometimes people just need a moment to breathe, and they just need to sit and be still and sip on tea. I keep coming back to this tea thing, and I think I drank a lot of tea during COVID. I think I drank a lot of tea. But so having a space for people to retreat. So I can envision a place for people to come, and actually organizations maybe hosting retreats. And because I love to travel, and because I love people and interacting with people, also continuing to work with organizations in their space. So venturing out, which I've done. I was doing that a little bit prior to COVID. And then obviously with COVID, nobody was out there. So now I'm excited to get back out there. I've worked with several organizations during COVID where they brought on their employees to do yoga with me.
So smart.
Yeah, it was great. Several universities, some, for-profit organizations. It's been amazing. So I just see myself doing more of that, providing one-on-one, like private coaching sessions with individuals. And honestly, I'm seeing a shift in the universe right now. Like, I'm seeing this becoming more accepted, where before it was more woo-woo, I guess. And I feel like now it's people recognize, you know what, it's okay if I need to take a break. It's okay if this doesn't feel well, and I need to do what I need to do so that I can be the best version of myself.
Have you done any research? Totally non sequitur question, but have you done any research, or do you have any information about, like, we just got done with the Disability In conference, was the last day today. And one of the panels I sat on yesterday, or I wasn't on the panel, I was watching, was about neurodiversity in the workplace and the different ways that they are accommodating neurodiversity, and that for some people it was way better, to your point, to work from home, and other people, they had a really hard time not being in the office with, because they've set themselves, this is like their this is where they feel safe to do their work, whatever it is.
Right.
With yoga and neurodiversity, are there any statistics? You may totally not know this, and so I apologize for putting you on the spot, but have you seen any benefits, like, for the neurodiverse community? And if it's something that maybe, these corporations that have the Autism at Works program would be beneficial for them to incorporate into their programming.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to quote anything right now. I'm not going to, but I will. I've read so much and I've learned so much. And so absolutely, studies show that that individuals who are taking these, who are practicing yoga, we'll just stick with yoga, who are practicing yoga, increases your endorphins. You are just happier, right? And you physically are feeling better. It creates space so that your body can heal. It improves blood pressure. It improves your heart. It improves lung capacity. I could go on and on in terms of the health benefits that are presented or given to individuals who do practice yoga on a regular basis. And so I know right now a lot of organizations are very in tune with mindfulness. That's a big thing now.
Right.
So being present in the moment, which is another benefit that yoga brings to individuals. It force, I don't like to use the word force, but you automatically become present in the moment. You don't even realize it because we're constantly, especially in today's society, thinking. We're trained. Our brain is trained to think. That's what it does. It's going to think. You'll never stop thinking. However, with yoga, you're able to actually observe your thoughts. You're observing your thoughts. And when you're able to observe your thoughts, you're able to be a little more productive and you're able to work with intention. So yes, there is so much out there right now that is supporting, the mindfulness, supporting the yoga, supporting the mental well-being,
right.
Supporting that brain of ours. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is we're about to go into Mental Health Month, I think. So it's a great opportunity for companies to support their employees or their team members that do struggle with mental health we really want to take the taboo out of all of those components of the workplace. And so by offering yoga to the entire workforce, the entire team is probably one of those ways that kind of unites people because everyone can use it in their own capacity.
Absolutely. And, it's really about how we talk to ourselves, even the employer, the bosses, or, those who are in charge. How are they talking to themselves? Because however they're speaking, whatever voice is going on in their head, it's spilling over to those that are working around them. And that's for all of us, right? So so it's funny, I was talking to a client yesterday and she said she appreciated in my classes, I always say, we're going to move into down dog, but if it's in your practice, or lift your right leg if it's in your practice. I'd like to throw that in there on occasion just to remind people, just because I'm doing it and I'm going feet ahead, doesn't mean that's where you're at today, and that's okay. Right. And she said that has helped her. She's been with me for over a year. She said it has helped her in her day-to-day life, recognizing that it's okay if I didn't get to, the 10th.
All 42 things on my to-do list today, right?
But I did do these things, and so that back to the intention and being mindful and pausing and look at what you did do. Right. Look at what you did accomplish, because when we cheer ourselves on and we recognize the things that we did do and accomplish, it's a boost for us and it allows us to keep moving forward, right? So it's all of that self-talk that goes on. So with this, if you're doing it in the workplace, again, as from top to bottom, how you're talking to yourself, the practices that you have for yourself, the books that you're reading, all of those things are going to influence everyone around you. And who do you want to be? Who do you want to present yourself as? And what do you want your organization to look like? How do you want them to feel when they come to work every day? So,
oh, that's great.
That's great. So when any of these workplaces want to have these wellness practices and things, how do they get in touch with you? How should they find you?
So I'm in the process right now. My website is almost finished. So we're looking at a launch first week of August. But in the meantime, I have an Instagram. It's Yoga with Charmain. And then my email address, of course, for now. But like I said, we'll be launching a website first week of August. So that.
And what's that domain for that website?
1 to Zen, and it's the word 1, the number 2, and then Zen.
That's cute.
.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Charmain, thank you so much for being with us today. This is such a great way to start our new season, getting into the next normal. And
centering
really
ourselves for the rest of them.
Exactly, yeah. Getting our mindset, getting our intention.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Charmain.
Right. See you next time on Business Unusual.